The Grim Tale of the Bookshop on the Hill. There was once a bookshop that stood on a hill. In front of its cheerful green windows were flower-filled plant pots, and above the bright green door hung a sign, reading books. The bookshop owner was not just a shopkeeper. She was also a binder of books. She would carefully take raw stories, be they ancient, true, or fantastical, and lovingly bind them into beautiful books to place on the shelves of her shop. She was very skilled at the art, and soon had to take on an assistant, a diligent young man, who would go out into the world and carefully collect stories to be bound into new books. People came from far and wide to buy her books, and everyone in town agreed that these were the best stories they had ever heard or read. The shop was alive with people who came to share the stories, to hear them read aloud, or to tuck themselves away in a cosy corner and escape into the world of fable. But the bookshop owner had started to take a special liking to some of the books. After all, she was the one who had put so much time and skill and effort and love into binding them. So why shouldn't she keep some of the very best stories for herself? It was only fair, was it not? Soon, though, her appetite for new stories grew too great, and the diligent young assistant couldn't gather stories fast enough to satisfy her. So he began to snatch them. He would sneak around town with a big ear trumpet, sucking up secret conversations and storing them in jars. He would climb onto the roofs of houses and overhear parents telling their children bedtime stories, which he would swish away. He would go to the theatre and whip the stories clean out of the air. More and more and more stories were stolen, snatched, grabbed, and hook-a-ducked back to the shop where they were bound into books. All to satisfy the bookshop owner's greed. "These books are all mine. They're beautiful, they glitter like gold, and I am the only one who deserves to read them," she would say. Before long, she started to turn customers away from the shop. "You expect me to just give away my stories? Oh, you dirty story scroungers! I don't even know why the door was open to you. Go on, get out!" Then one day, as she cast the last customer from the shop, she tasked her assistant with boarding up the windows and doors. He hammered great planks of wood across the lovely green windows and added huge iron bolts to the door. But the stories, locked up inside for so very long, never being told, began to decay. All the selfishness and greed and wickedness in that place began to seep into the very pages of the books, turning the tales contained within them into nasty, sickly, spooky stories of horrible happenings and gruesome goings-on. And so, the bookshop sat on top of the hill, dark and quiet. The green paint flaked from the front door, and the flowers in the pots withered and rotted away. The stories inside these poisoned books started to fade from memory. But as they did, they decided to take the bookshop owner and her assistant with them. As they looked around, they saw the walls of the shop were fading out of existence. They looked down at their hands and saw in horror that they too were fading away. "What have we done? What have we done?" they cried. The entire shop and everything within it disappeared and was never seen again. The shop, however, did not disappear completely. The stories within it demanded to be told, and so they took their revenge. And from that day on, the bookshop owner and her assistant were cursed to never leave the shop, cursed to forever appear in new places with hundreds of eyes watching them expectantly, forcing the bookshop owner to share the stories. And so she did, and still does. So perhaps one day the stories will forgive them, and the curse will be lifted, which would be nice, wouldn't it?